Hi, welcome back. I just got back from the 5-borough bike tour from, so I biked and I fell and I got some pretty bad road rash. Thank God. Yeah, it's not pretty. But the adrenaline wore off towards the end, so that's the worst part of it, but I feel pretty good now. So on Instagram, I put on a question asking you guys and girls to ask me questions mainly about tattooing. I'll answer everything, but there were some really good questions. So let's get straight into it. So Axe asks, how do you pull crispy clean line work, circles and straight lines? Huge fan of your work. Thank you very much. So I started doodling when I was young, and I drew a lot when I was young. So my habits of drawing contributed to me being able to do this because I was very obsessive and meticulous. So if it was slightly off, I would just erase it and I'll do it again. So it was a lot of passive practicing from a young age. So what this means is that if you have no experience with this and you want clean lines and clean circles, it's going to take some time and a lot of energy and a lot of dedication, but it is possible. I just got lucky that I was interested in doing this and I was obsessive and picky enough to do it over and over and over until I was able to do it. So right now it's more so effortless because I had that past experience. Like I say, drawing experience transfers so well to tattooing. So if you're not drawing, you're kind of robbing yourself of potential growth if you want to become a good tattoo artist. And physical is better than iPad, but iPad is better than nothing. So if you really can't do physical, go to iPad. But if you can switch from iPad to physical, like pencil and paper, I suggest you do that because you feel everything. And when you're tattooing, you gotta kind of feel everything. Like when the needle hits the skin, the slightest differences, it will help you as a tattoo artist. Next question. Matthew asks, is there anywhere I can go to find what tattoo equipment I need to begin tattooing? Thank you. I got my first machine, but I don't know where else I need to get to begin with practicing on myself. Okay, cool. Good that you're practicing on yourself and not others. But then you get stuck with your first tattoos unless you're okay with that. Anyways, I started out with Amazon machines. So very low quality, not great kits, but the kits have everything included in it. So I started out with Amazon machines, and you can too. Just do it responsibly. Practice a lot first, get an apprenticeship, get acquainted with actually tattooing. So when you do tattoo on a real person, you're not just messing up and it's permanent on them forever. So yeah. Okay, next question. Yeah asks me, what was your first step in learning to tattoo? So first step, oh great, I just answered that question. First step is to grab yourself some equipment, some cheap equipment to get your foot in, get the feel for it, learn what it takes to set up the machine, to set up the ink cups, to set up your station, and just feel it out. But a better first step would be to draw and enjoy drawing so you can do it for long periods of time and you don't gas out because you enjoy it, right? Well, you don't have to, but that's my recommendation. And yeah, precursor step would be to draw. Next real step would be to get yourself some easily accessible cheap machines and supplies on the internet. Kraken asked me, the best way to get a good contrast through a single needle piece without overworking the skin. So this is a little bit difficult because if you want high contrast, that means you have to have darks and lights. So if your whole piece is dark, there's no contrast because there's no light parts to contrast the dark. And if your whole piece is just light, then there's no darks to contrast the lights, right? So to get darks, so you have to have an experience to know how to do it to get to a certain dark without overworking the skin, which is multiple layers, and you can overdo layering. Depth a little bit deeper, you'll get darker. And why light is so difficult is because restraint. We tend to go too dark because, you know, you get picky with it, and then you just keep layering, and then it's like, you know, okay, I fix it here, I fix it there. Before you know it, it's too dark. So you lack contrast because everything is too dark now, right? Carlos Becerra Art asks me, what inspired you to start tattooing? I said this many times to my clients when I tattoo them, because they asked me this question, and I believe I said it to one of my videos. Basically, my friend got a $60 tattoo, elephant outline, on his inner arm, and quality was garbage. And the tattoo artist had a reliable clientele. Like he made good money. And in my head, I'm like, if the quality is like that and it costs $60, which is a lot of money, he has a list of people waiting for him. I thought, something's not right here. Either the standards are really low, or I am overestimating tattoo work a lot. So, well, the first answer is the reason why standards were really low. But now we can see with all these new influx of tattoo artists, they're really upping the standards. So you can't really cut it with low quality work anymore. Well, you can, but you know, there's so many new artists that are showing their talent into it that you have to work to earn it. You can't just get into tattooing and you will, you know, I think it still happens, but nothing comes easy. Sooner or later, the tide will overtake you if you don't work to keep your head above the water. Okay, Y on asks, hey Jay, what are some pros and cons, if any, of getting a single needle tattoo? Yes, good question. Pros of single needle tattoos is it is hard to come by, especially good ones. So maybe it's easy to come by, but there's plenty of bad single needles, right? So I guess the pro is that, and the pro is it also has a very unique look. The pixels are much finer, if done right, obviously, because you can still blow out with a single needle. So you can see everything. It looks smooth. It looks smoother in a way. Looking at tattoos for this long now, fine line tattoos, I can tell what is a 3-round liner and what is a 1-round liner most of the time. So there's definitely a aesthetic and a look to it. So, and plus it's difficult to do, so, you know, harder to come by, right? Cons of getting it is, like I said, you know, there's some bad ones out there. So if you're gonna get, if you don't know what you're getting yourself into, you don't research or know what to look for, you might come across some bad ones, and that's a bad thing. And you know, like they say that single needle tattoos don't last that long. True, if the execution is bad. Yeah, so that's a con. It's great if you can find a good one, not so great if you're stuck with a bad one. So this is going pretty well. I'm getting into a flow of it. So, all right, what is next? Alina asks, needing to take a lot of passes for the ink to saturate. How to tell if ink flow, hand speed, or depth probably. So that's difficult. I would, if I was there in person and I can see, it would be much easier. So let's break it down. So you're passing it a lot and it's not getting saturated, right? So is it ink flow? If it is ink flow, then it's not getting enough ink. So you have to either lower the needle peeking out of the tube, so get it closer to the tube so there's not much distance from the needle to the skin to transfer the ink. It could be the cartridge quality, because I've had cartridges that have horrible ink flow. I use Quadrant, so Quadrant number 35. It can also be the gauge too, so I use 35, aka 12 gauge. If I used a 25, which is a 8 gauge, ink flow definitely isn't as good because it's slimmer. It's the gauge is slimmer, right? What else? maybe there's something I'm not thinking of, but I'm trying to get through these questions. Hand speed, I don't think that's a big, I don't think that would affect the saturation. No, it would. If it's slower, yes, don't go too slow because it might cut the skin. If it's slower, it'll definitely have closer pixels when you stroke through it. So, but if it's too fast, then I guess faster strokes is more spread out, but then you get more strokes per second, I guess, right? So I don't think it's hand speed. Depth, yes. If you go a little deeper, yes, the ink definitely transfers better. It gets saturated faster, but beware of going too deep. So yeah, I think it's either ink flow or depth. The three that you mentioned. It could be some other reasons maybe, but yeah, I'll keep it within the question's boundaries. Okay, Lee Bin asks, do you have any exercise routine? Do you have any exercise or routine to take care of your back and eyes? Eyes, I don't have so much problems unless I'm doing a very long session. My eyes will get dry and I really have to go out of my way to take care of it. But for my back, my neck, and my shoulders, my left shoulder especially, yeah, I exercise regularly. Movement counteracts it a lot. So, and stretching, but I don't stretch, so I need to stretch more. I still get, very stiff. But I box, I'm very active, I do cardio. Cardio is amazing, and it greatly affects how well I can sit for longer hours and how well my body is maintained. So I highly recommend good diet, good exercise, get some sunlight. It helps you mood, all your chemistry in your body goes up, your mind is healthier. So yeah, don't consume too much bad substances, maybe alcohol or cigarettes or anything. I don't know. You do whatever you want, but this is just me explaining what works for me, right? But exercise is a big one. If you want to be a better tattoo artist, you got to be healthy. So yeah, I know a lot of us don't want to hear that, but it is what it is. Okay, Joao asks, what is the biggest secret to optimizing the time to get a tattoo? How to know what I pigmented the solid parts well without hurting? Give me a minute. Let me break down this question. What is the secret to efficiently render the tattoo in a reasonable amount of time, I'm guessing? And the second one is how to saturate the skin with ink without overworking it. So first part is experience, getting used to it. I cannot tattoo single needle fine line work at the sizes that I'm tattooing now than I would be doing a couple years ago, one year ago even, because I'm just so much more efficient, because the strokes, I'm used to it, because over time I'm used to the motion and my hand just naturally does it, right? Also being aware that you're not doing anything inefficient, so wasting time layering this part to get a dark gray, whereas I can just simply go slightly deeper and it'll take much less layers, right? But the risk is you might be going too deep. So that's what I'm saying, experience. I'm experienced enough to know how to adjust a slight increase in depth to saturate the skin faster so I don't overdo the layering, which would overwork the skin. So there's so many little things to cut down time, but you'll notice it and you'll get better at it with experience and just constantly practicing. So again, I'll say this again, drawing helps a lot. It trains your hand, it gets your hand in the motion of it. You can't go wrong with it. You have to draw it. If you enjoy drawing, this advice to you to draw more, you already know, you're doing anyways. But if you don't enjoy drawing as much, and you just enjoy tattooing, you kind of have to force yourself to do it. It'll help you improve as a tattoo artist, so you should be doing it. Oh, okay, so the second part I actually answered from Alina's question, which is 2 questions ago. Yeah, a lot of these are gonna overlap. Sometimes I'll catch it, sometimes I'll repeat it, but bear with me. Next question, Marco asks, if I want to be your apprentice, would there be a way? This is not for YouTube. Oh man, I know a lot of you asked to be my apprentice, which I am greatly flattered. I thought of this. I don't want too many apprentices, but I do want someone that clicks, that I just see a version of me, and preferably younger, because they're almost like not sure what they want to do. But if I see the right qualities in them, I can offer them a path of their life to pursue. And me being as developed into my life with my sets of traits and qualities and personalities, I can guide them to be successful in my way, so I can mold them and shape them, you know, when they're younger, and when I see that they have these certain qualities that I possess too. So there's so much little things that has to click for me to take on an apprentice, that if you just simply ask me it, I would say no 100% of the time. I gotta look for it. A lot of things have to be right for me to even consider it. And even then, there's a lot of maybes, you know? So it's a tough question. I gotta feel it out as I get older. Next one, Mary Kate asks, what art style or subject are you most excited to explore? So, a year ago, I was most excited to explore single needle, fine line microrealism. And now that I am well acquainted in it, and I am better at whip shading, because I started whip shading much later. I thought dotting was the way. I dotted everything, but whip shading is actually freaking amazing. And my dotting techniques is taking a backseat, and I'll use that technique when I need it in certain situations, but whip shading is in the driver's seat for microrealism for now. So I'm getting kind of bored of microrealism. Not really like all the way bored, but you know, I am actually looking into my own style, which will incorporate a lot of the techniques that I've learned. So dotting, shading, whip shading, you know, line work. I think it'll be more so like a neo-Asian traditional style. I don't know yet. I have a whole stack of books that I need to sit down and just go through them, because I picked these books out for a reason. I didn't think about it, it just clicked. I bought them, and if I go through them, I think I'll get something out of it. And anyways, I gotta fucking worry about my shop coming together first. So it's always busy. Next, Sam Kwan24 asks, is tattooing a stable career? Pros and cons of being a tattoo artist. So that was one of the things I looked up after I saw my friend get that elephant outline. I was like, what is a tattoo artist's salary? Is it a stable career? So good question, and I can tell you exactly what you need to hear. So it's stable and it's great if you are willing to put your all into it. It's just like opening a restaurant. All the bad ones are the ones that they just kind of go in, make the dishes and just plop it on your plate and charge you, right? Over time, customers understand that it's subpar quality. They're not going to come back. They're not going to tell their friends about it. Sooner or later, the restaurant's going to die. Same for your tattoo career. If you're just going to go buzz it on somebody, don't give a shit, they give you money, it's going to die out. You're going to be upset that, I'm not a great tattoo artist, or no, these people don't respect me as a tattoo artist. Get your ego out of it. Fucking do better, because your environment is telling you something. You gotta do better. Maybe you gotta switch career. Maybe tattooing isn't for you. There's a whole other, there's so many other disciplines, woodworking, writing, it will match your personality if you find it. Maybe, I don't know, there's metal workers, there are people who are building armor and making, there's people even making cosplay props like with out of foam, and they understand the materials and the quality. You know, everything is what you put into it. So first of all, figure out if tattooing is right for you. Are you just enamored with the possible fame that you can get with tattoo artistry? If that's what you want, and if that's a strong enough desire for you to grind out everything and do what you need to do, great. But if that's just a fleeting desire that will get you into tattooing and do everything half-assed, you can still do it. You know, it's like, but you at some point you're gonna realize that nothing's working out, or you might not realize it and you can blame everything else but yourself. So that's the answer to that. It is a stable career if it's for you. Samantha asks, do you get tired of tattooing things you didn't choose to do? I do. I'm naturally a yes person, so I'll say yes to almost everybody. But over time, I've learned to say no, and it's fucking amazing. So if it's something that just doesn't click with me, it's better that I don't do it, because I find that I do things in line with what I am genuinely happy with. You know, some people are better at just buckling down and doing the work. You know, they can do it, but slowly it eats at them over time. I'm not good at that. I couldn't stay focused in school. I got through it. You know, at least I have some sort of focus. But I was never a straight A student because I can't do that. So I learned that I need to do things that I enjoy, and I'll do it above and beyond. If I don't enjoy it, it's really grueling for me. I'll finish it, but I will never be happy with it. And I've done that plenty of times early on, which is great because you get the tattoo that you requested, but I obviously don't enjoy it, but I get the money and I get the experience and I get the bookings, right? I'm at a point where I can say no to people, and I should say no to people for the benefit of me and the benefit of you. If I'm not enjoying it, I'm gonna do 80% work, 90% work. But if I genuinely enjoy it, I'll do 100% work. I'll do 110% work. So I've learned to say no, and I've learned to, for the most part, I can get better at just filtering out the stuff that I genuinely don't want to do. I'm constantly working towards it, so yeah, it's a good pursuit. Okay, so we're about 20% of the questions, so yeah, grab some popcorn. All right. Ivy Song asks, how did you start tattooing? Oh, I answered that already. So I started with an apprentice. Oh, I started with a Amazon machine. I truly started with my natural enjoyment of drawing as a little kid, but I really started when I finished my apprenticeship and I started working for Dragonfly, which is an amazing shop. I fucking love them. I need to go visit them and give a substantial gift to them for mentoring me and treating me like their tattoo son. So I'm gonna make that happen soon. I'm gonna give them a very good gift. It's gonna hurt me because I hate letting go of valuable stuff or money because I am frugal and I am cheap. So, but I'm learning to, give. So this will help me train my giving muscles. I'm gonna give them something nice. Fuck. Anyways. Oh, part 2 of her question. What does the apple mean? So, the apple, that's my apple that I painted in a painting class in college. The professor asked the class to just, for this one project, to pick any subject you want and just paint it. And I picked an apple because it was simple, it was organic, it looks beautifully, as it is. A lot of natural things that I like, but never really thought about it. So, like I say, that all your actions have a lot of depth. If you think about it, you'll find it. But, everything you do, clothes you wear, how you dress your hair, what you look at, what you enjoy. It's all deep in your soul, in your personality. So I guess apples are me, right? Also, I'm painting another apple, the golden apple, soon. I'm working on it, and I want to finish it and put it in the new shop that I'm opening. So that's what the apple means. It's just what I like, I guess. Delgado Joshua asks, how to make straight lines good circles? Oof, I just answered that. He also asks, how do solid black filling with one round liner? How to do it? Okay, so you can either layer it until it's solid black, or what I like to do is I like to do a scribbling, poking motion and go a little deeper, not too deep, to fill it. It gives you a noisy, staticky texture that fits the, whip shaded look, the dotted look overall. Or if you want, you can just use a 7 mag, or any mag. If 7 is the smallest, and if you're using a single, it'll be smaller work, so 7, right? Or a 3 round liner or round shader. Round shader is slightly spread more apart, so I guess it distributes the ink particles a little bit more spread out. You can use all those other ones to fill the black. They will fill it faster than the single, because it's single, is not efficient filling solid black. But I like to do the scribbly poking motion because I am lazy. I don't like switching my cartridge. Okay, next. He asked a third one. When and why did you decide to only use one round liner? Honestly, I innately decided when I found out that I like to use 0.3 lead pencil. So when I drew, I really like this because it can get into all the little spaces and I can, detail everything. I love drawing small. So everything you do, like I say, is your personality, is your soul. It's a reflection of what you are. So this would be a sign that I am a single needle artist. So pay attention to what you naturally prefer, and you'll find out a lot about yourself and what your future might be. So I decided when I was using a 3, so I never used a 1. I used a 3 because I thought that was the closest to this pencil, right? Well, I didn't think, but it felt like it was in my brain. And I found out that with the 3, if I angle it, one needle will hit the skin. And I pay attention every time I tattoo. I'm always looking for things or trying to look for things or paying attention. I saw that the 1 hit the skin, and well, that's single needle tattoo, right? In the beginning, of course, I made the mistakes that you naturally would make with a single needle, but I quickly corrected that after realizing that what did not work. So, single needle, that was when I figured it out. Shmo asks, how do you deal with tougher skin, not taking the ink very well, that also swells up quickly? So I've actually tattooed the Jujutsu Kaisen manga frame. I'll give you an image. And his skin bled a lot. So that made the tattooing very difficult because I had to wipe more, and the plasma would dilute the ink, so it wouldn't be solid black ink. So basically, you have to push the limits of not overworking the skin. So you have to work the skin more, but you have to know what is too overworked. This comes with experience. So that's not an easy thing to say in a quick question format. There's a lot to it, but you would have to just work it more for the skin to take. And if you think it's overworked, stop. Get the person in for a second session. Do it the right way. I know it's going to be more inconvenient because then you got to do another session without more pay, but do it right, because the client holds your work. He walks around, he talks, he or she, and that's your advertisement. That's your credentials. That's your review right there. People look at it. Bad, they're not going to do anything to do with you. Good, they're going to ask about it, and then you get more potential clients, right? So do everything right. But that's the answer to the question. You have to know the skin type very well. Everything is so much experience that I wish I can tell you, but I just can't. I really wish I can. Okay. Oh, he also asks, I have a daughter, she's 10 months. How do you balance work and home life/wife as an artist? This is tough. So I have a traditional household where I go out to work and my wife is a housewife, right? And I know in today's culture that's a big no-no, or that's more uncommon, but it works in that I can go all in with my craft and not worry too much about the house care. Imagine if I had to improve my tattooing, constantly pay attention and improve it, and then I have to draw, and I have to do the paintings that I want to do. I have to edit my photos, I have to take photos, I have to edit the videos, I have to exercise at least twice a week, or else my body's going to deteriorate. There's just so much. So I owe this whole thing to obviously myself, but also to my wife, because she does so much for me in that side of my life. Whether traditional works for you or not, it's not for me to say, because we have today's culture, we have a lot of different things. So I don't want to upset anybody, and I don't want to say anything for sure, because I don't like saying anything for sure. But it works for me, and I'm able to do this. So Barrett asks, does tattooing cause chronic pain? Yes. For my shoulder, my neck, my back, wrist, not so much yet. It does wear on your body. So there's only a certain amount of hours in the day. There's only a certain amount of days in your life. There's only a certain amount of time that you can do it until your hands or neck or back or whatever starts giving out. And that's why exercise is so important. It'll extend that lifetime. So I say all this for good reason. You have to do it. Well, you don't have to do it, but I suggest you do it. If you want to become a better tattoo artist, you want a happier life, yes. Okay. Next question. Zotarelli Inc. asks, how to create uniform light shades using 100% black? Thank you for your videos. I believe I answered this in one of my videos. I'm going to look for it and I'll post it here. And basically, I'll explain it too. Basically, it's you're going at the lightest possible depth without going too light where it will fade, but you're also not going too deep where it becomes a little darker than you want it, right? And the hand speed and the spacing between each stroke is consistent. So you have a layer of soft, light, shallow enough ink pixels. This takes a lot of time to master, I'll tell you that now. And I owe a lot of this ability to my practicing with shading with this on paper, because it's the same motion, the same three things I mentioned: depth, hand speed, and spacing between each stroke. You can get a sheet of graphite, light graphite. If you go a little too hard, you can tell that one stroke stands out from the others. So you gotta erase it, you gotta do it again. And if you go too fast, it's too light. If you go too close, it becomes too cluttered and dark. So I've learned this on paper first before I attempted it on tattooing. Again, I'll say this again. Drawing is going to help you a lot. And this is proof that I was able to do it with this, and I was able to do it on skin. And and the video explains more. So, Okay, I am on a fucking roll. Perry WS asks, how do you approach full day sessions / build up the stamina to tattoo for 6+ hours? This is exercise, and this is stretching, and this is healthy habits, and this is eating well. So your body is your machine. If you maintain it well, if you know, all that good stuff, it will serve you the best way it can. But if you mistreat it, if you abuse it, if you don't, improve it, then it won't. And I've came from a place where I sat in the computer all day, I ate garbage, I had a bad state of mind. It takes baby steps. What I'm saying is hard. So if you're in that position, take baby steps. It's okay. It will improve over time. Don't get overwhelmed and just be like, oh, I can't do this because, it's too hard. Take baby steps. It'll happen eventually. The fucking hair, man. The progress will the tiny little progress will accumulate, and one day you'll be like, I can do a lot better because I did all these little habits for a year, Bruno asks, when tattooing on hand, do you set up different your machine? Oh, also, is the angle you tattoo different? Yeah, so basically, what adjustments do you make when you tattoo the skin on the hand? Because the skin on your hand is different than the skin on your forearm or neck or whatever. So I would go, let's say finger, right? I would go a little deeper because the skin is harder. And to get to the layer where the ink settles and heals, it takes a little bit more work to get past the rough callousness of the skin to get in. So you'll notice if you tattoo the hand and if you went too light, it'll almost completely go away because you're tattooing such tough skin, and it didn't even go to the layer where the ink settles and stays. This also means that because you are adjusting to go deeper, blowing out is easier because you might overdo it. So that's why it's harder. You've got to go deeper, but carefully. And do I angle it? So if you're tattooing at a straight down angle, it works. But if you tattoo at a 90-degree angle, it actually goes to the skin. It tattoos easier. It penetrates the skin easier. The bottom few needles go through first. So it's not all at once, tensing the skin up. The bottom few penetrates first, and then the next two, or the middle needles, and then the top needles. So it's like, you know what I mean? It just penetrates easier if you go at an angle. With one, does that work with one? Because it's just one though? That's why I don't think it matters with one. So that's why in my videos, you don't see me going at an angle because it makes no difference. There's no skin tension to worry about with just one. If I'm tattooing with a 5, I gotta angle it, right? So, new discovery. We're discovering things as we go. Musk asks me, will you come anytime in LA? No promises. A lot of people ask, will you come to LA? Will you come to Mexico? Or this and that. I always say yes because I'm a people pleaser, but I've learned that I am a homebody. I just go home and I go to work, and I'm more than satisfied. I don't want to hang out, even though sometimes I get FOMO. I've learned to control my FOMO and actually understand what I naturally want. I don't want to go out. I want to connect with people, but to connect with people, I have to go out. Okay, it doesn't matter. I don't want to go out. I can connect in different ways. What was the question? Oh, yes. So I've learned who I am, and through my 8.5 years of tattooing, I've only went to a convention once, and I've only went to London once to guest spot, and I only went because a coworker asked me to go with her. So yeah, I just don't do it. I should though, but no promises. LA is like a given. If you're from New York, you gotta go to LA. I've never been to LA, but I should go to explore and guest spot. I gotta get out of my comfort zone, so I might do it, but no promises. Amit asks, what's your machine voltage needle hang? My machine is Solnova 3.5 stroke wireless. Voltage is the 45-degree angle, so I don't know what that is in numeric form, but they have a system where if you hold the button and you can angle it, so depending on the angle, it goes harder or softer. But I angle it 45, so it's halfway between the hardest and the softest setting. I don't know how that is in numerical form though. And the needle hang, let me see. The needle hang, I would say I let it peek out of the tube at around, if you saw my video with the needle I like to tattoo. How deep do I go with a single needle? I go as deep as, the lightest I'll go is around 0.5, and the deepest I'll go is 1.4. So maybe it's more than that. I would say it peaks out 2 millimeters. I think you can tell in my videos. Anyways, that's my needle hang, if that's what you mean. Armenta asks, there's two parts to this question. He or she asks, do you remember your favorite piece ever tattooed? Shit, I think that's constantly changing, because if I'm doing it right, I'm always improving. And if I'm always improving, the new favorite is always going to be updated. So I can't say that. I can say my current favorite. Let me go through my posts. My current favorite one is, it's so hard to choose from. And I'm also very picky, so there's a lot of things I hate about it too. So that's a tough, I know. It is this one. Because I drew it, and the patterns were really fun to tattoo, and it looks great on the skin. And I like skulls and I like katanas, so that's my favorite for now. Second part to the question. What is your motivation to share your knowledge? It is awesome, by the way. So it is a bit of altruism and it is a bit of selfishness. So it's altruism because I genuinely want people to improve, so that the net output of tattoos is good quality versus bad, because that affects a person's mood, and that affects their day-to-day, and that affects their career, and that affects their place in society, and that affects how well a society is doing, and that affects me again, because if I'm living in a better overall society, I'm gonna be happier. If I live in a hellish, bad society, of course I'm not gonna be happy, right? But the good thing is I can help improve it, and it'll make me feel important. So there's pros and cons. The selfish part is, the selfish part is I gain notoriety, so I can be, this is partially my way of gaining fame, right? And fame and notoriety ups my legacy, and I want to leave a good legacy by putting out good tattoos, by putting out this content, by helping people, and reputation goes up, gives me a good name when people meet me, or they see me, or they see people who look like me. They won't judge me poorly, but they will judge me or people who look like me better, and it's a good thing for that. So yeah, that's my reasons. Amit, that's the second part to his or her question. What do you use to design the sketch? What printer, stencil, solution, etc.? So sketch, right? Sketch is if it is a custom tattoo. But what I normally do with realism, microrealism is that I find the right reference image, and what I'll do with that is I'll put it in Photoshop and I'll prep it for the stencil. So I'll sharpen it, I will up the contrast, I will, you know, dodge the midtones or highlights, or I'll burn the shadows and midtones to prepare for a good readable stencil, because if there's not enough contrast, then it's flat, and when I put it on the skin, you can't really see the differential, you know, details and shit. What else do I do? I crop out things, so I'll use the lasso tool, or you know, select the magic wand tool. I'll use the color replacement tool and just make it black and gray, because that's what stencil, you can't really print color in stencil. And the printer, so the shop uses a Epson printer with the blue stencil ink as the ink. So I don't know how to rig, it's rigged to do that. I think you have to do some stuff to it for it to work. We are halfway, a little under halfway. Oof, I'm really gonna test my social talking stamina. Oh, my back hurts because my back and my ribs hurt because of the fall today. Let me take a break. Take a break with me. Okay. Oh wow, Amit asks a part 3 to the question, and would love to see a video of you explain and show your process from A to Z, even paid for it. So what it means is like, wow, I love that people are willing to pay for my content. At the moment, it'll be free for you. It'll just depend on if I have the time and energy and the solidified information in my head to make these videos. But it's good that it's free, because it has a wider reach, you know, and it'll up my following and subscribe, whatever. Okay, explain A to Z. That would be a great video. I might do that, because some videos I'll include the Photoshop process, some includes the stenciling process, some includes, it doesn't include everything. I gotta even include the interaction with the customers. That's important. Yeah, that would be a great future endeavor. Okay, Armenta asks, third part of Armenta's question now. What is the most challenging thing about single needle? Ooh, view the video of, I'll put it here. I forgot the title, but it basically tells you why it's so difficult. Yeah, that'll be good. That'll answer your question and more. _Aston asks, for superfine line, straight lines, is it better to sculpt them or single pass them? That's a great question. So maybe if you notice in my videos, more than often I will sculpt them, which is basically brush it until it's the density that I want, right? If I want a lighter line, I will just do it a few times and it'll stay light. But if I want them darker, I'll do it, you know, enough times. But the problem with this is it risks you going off the track, so it becomes a blurry, thicker line, or it becomes a messed up line that, you know, you didn't follow the same path, so it doesn't become a thin line that you wanted initially anymore. Sometimes I'll single pass them when I feel comfortable, when it feels comfortable. So I will sculpt it in when I'm not as comfortable, right? But if I'm more comfortable, I'll single pass it. But single passing risks cutting the skin if you're too slow. It risks blowing out. It risks going too dark. So very situational whether I do either or, but more often I like to sculpt it. But you have to be good at maintaining the same stroke path, or you'll have that weird line that we said. GoSec asks, hi Jason, how to create smooth shading and what's the difference in solid blacks with single needle? Ooh, okay, like I answered with the previous question, a couple of questions back, with the shading, basically it's consistency, consistent depth, consistent hand speed, consistent stroke, separation, right? And layering is part of it too. So if you're going to do the first layer in one angle stroking, it'll be smoother doing the other one in a different angle. So it's like you layer, 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 right? Because if it's all layer and then layer and then layer, some lines will be darker because there's overlapping layers if you do the same direction. But if you do layer this way or this way, it's more better to have a smoother layer, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I think you know what I mean. So those 4 things, well, and I have a video about it that I'm gonna post here for you to watch that will help you. Asta asks, not a question, but can't wait to get another tattoo from you. Congrats on everything, by the way. Thank you so much. I love that you guys just take the time to tell me this. It's genuinely encouraging for me, and it gives me feedback like, oh, because you don't know until people tell you certain things. Like, you know, Elise asks, what brand of needles do you like? I love Quadrant brand needles. Single needle, 35, 12 gauge, long taper. Great. GermanFS asks, what is the greatest difficulty of dedicating yourself to tattooing? Ooh. It's not a difficulty if you naturally enjoy it like I do. So the difficult part is cleaning up your life so you can go as far with this natural passion as you can, because I can go as far as I want if there's no resistance, right? But because we have our lives, we have our insecurities, we have our problems, we are born with this obstacle, we're born with that, it's like all this temptation, all this, sloth, lust, anger, whatever, it weighs us down. So even if you do naturally enjoy something, you're gonna get lost in all these other things that you can't even go as far as you want because there's just so much resistance. So the hardest part is to clean up your life, clean up your mind, clean up your soul, the things around you, the people around you, and it's gonna hurt. But the result is you clear everything, and whatever you want to do, you fucking go. It goes by itself. You don't even have to try. Anna asks, why do some single needle tattoos fall out completely? Any tips on how to prevent? So it's a lot of reasons, but the common reason is it's too light, because single needle you're prone to going too light, whereas traditional you're prone to going too dark and blowing out. And I've seen some blown out traditional tattoos, and that's never good, as I've seen, some bad faded single needle tattoos. Basically, you're gonna have to get well acquainted with your single needle depth, single needle accuracy, single needle speed, all the factors that I've said in my videos. Basically, you have to get really good with it, which is hard. But like I say, and I'll say it again, drawing helps a lot. So if anything, train your hand, draw more, hand stencil everything, use physical as opposed to iPad, digital. It all accumulates and will give you a better single needle hand to tattoo with. Okay, so I need another break. We are more than halfway there. I'll get there. I'm determined to fucking finish this video. Maya asks, what is something you'd wish you'd known early on in your tattoo career? What would I know? What would I wish? I think everything that I don't know and everything that I known back then helped me get to where I am. The curiosity helped me. The whatever I did know back then helped me. I don't think anything. It all happened for a reason. I'm here because of what happened. Let's say if I time traveled back and fucked with a variable in the past, it might change the future in a bad way. So you never know. This is why, you never know. So anything happening to you, guys and girls, that's negative or good, it's meant to happen. And just have a good outlook on it, and then okay. Male Jojo asks, ointments / butters / moisturizers you use during tattoo sessions and the way how you use it. Okay, that I know what you mean. So what do I use what ointments, butters, moisturizers do I use during the tattooing? I only use A&D, and you'll notice I slather some A&D. Not slather, that's too much. I do a thin layer of A&D before I tattoo on it, because the ink gets absorbed into the cracks of the skin, and you'll notice that when you wipe it, a lot of the ink just stays, and that's going to mess with your stencil. And the only way to get rid of that is to use green soap, and green soap really gets rid of the stencils. So that's not great if you have a very detailed stencil and you want to keep it on the skin. So use A&D, a layer of A&D, to protect the ink from seeping into the skin, and wipe with A&D. So after I do that, I also slather some A&D and then wipe the ink off, as opposed to using green soap, because it maintains the stencil, but it doesn't wipe away the ink as good as the green soap. So I'll use the green soap after I tattooed enough where I don't need the stencil as much as I do in the beginning, and okay, cool, wipe it away. If it gets a little bit more faded than I would like, it wouldn't matter because I've tattooed enough on it. A&D, that's all it is. Subliminal asks, should the angle of the needle always be closest to 90 degrees, or does it vary? I think that was what I was answering with the multiple needles at 45 as opposed to single needle. You don't really need that. Single needle can go top down and it'll be fine because there's no skin tension to worry about, right? So yeah, for single needle you don't need to angle it, but for multiple needles, angling it is good because skin tension, right? Tattoos by Suda asks, what's your most important advice for someone who's starting to tattoo? I think I answered that, but I'll answer it again. Knowing why you're getting into it, having a strong natural enjoyment for tattooing or drawing, and yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say one thing is right or one thing is wrong. If fame is what you want, if money is what you want, those are great motivators too, but it will never go as far as passion. That's the strongest one. So I would suggest you try for passion, but if you just can't, I guess your desire for fame and money is great too. Honestly, it's great if you do it the right way. If you're not so absorbed into fame and money that you'll do anything to get it, and you'll produce bad tattoos, and of course that's not going to get you to where you want, and eventually you'll stop being famous, stop making money because your sight is on it too much. Everything goes away when you focus too hard on it, but if you focus on the right thing, those things just come naturally. So this is what we ink asks, how do you keep the stencil clean and long lasting during session? I answered that with the ointment thing, that I like to do that. And also, to expand on this question, take the paper towel and dab it, don't wipe it. I learned this from NV667 Tattoo. When I worked at Blind Reason, he taught me so much. I love him. But yeah, he taught me that you should press into the skin. So press into it. Don't wipe, because that gets rid of the stencil easier, even though you're using A&D, right? And like I said about the green soap, use green soap sparingly. Don't overdo it, because that will get rid of the stencil. Mr. Sean asks, date for new Shop NYC still? Good question, because I've been wanting to talk about it. Date, I'm going to finish the rest of my appointments at Atelier Ava at around early June. So from then on, I'm on my own. I don't have any appointments to worry about. I don't gotta go to work, so I can finish this painting. I can put out some art so I can have it as decor in the shop. So I want to say around August is a good time where I can take enough time off to do all that I want to do. And I am thinking, I'm pretty sure, but not 100% committed to opening in Flushing, Queens. There's many reasons, I'm not gonna get too into it, but I love it here. It's not the prettiest. It might not be the most pleasant because there's a lot of people packed into the streets, right? it's basically a huge Chinatown, and there's a lot of beautiful things about it, and there's a lot of unpleasant things about it, which in a weird way adds to its beauty, right? So much places to eat too. So it's like you come in for my tattoo, for my service, for my experience, and then you can enjoy Flushing before or after it. So it's like a trip. It's like an adventure almost. So that's why I want to open here. Okay, Patchy asks, after how long of practicing on fake skin should you start tattooing on real skin? Second part, should I tattoo my friends even though I'm not good yet, even if they have given you permission? So yeah, so graduate from fake skin, pig skin, fruit skin to real skin when you've gotten so confident tattooing on it. Then you can try the real thing, because you'll have all the motions and all the things solidified. So when you do tattoo on real skin, you don't have to worry about the technical parts because you already solidified it. All you have to worry about is the differences from fake skin to real skin, because there are some differences. Let's say the tenseness of it, the organicness of it, because it's not dead skin like pig skin is. It's not hard like fake skin. It's not so brittle like fruit skin. It's different. So if you've mastered the technical parts, you can move on and tattoo real skin with little adjustment, minimal adjustment. Because if you didn't solidify the technical parts, you have to adjust. You have to worry about maintaining the technical parts and worrying about adjusting to the new medium, right? That's my advice. And when you tattoo on your friends, I think it's okay, but we're all living in one moment of time. They may be more than willing to do it now, but maybe they might regret it in the future. Feel it out, you know. I've tattooed some of my friends. I hope to hell none of them regret it. And I hope to hell that, you know, like I do feel guilty sometimes when I think about it. I'm like, damn, I really wish I can give them the quality of tattoos that I do now back then, but that's impossible. You know, we all start somewhere, so feel it out with your friends, but practice enough where you're so technically stable that transferring to real skin, your friend's skin, is minimal effort. Ion asks, do you have any advice about the equipment, machine needle? Do you think it makes a major difference? It does. Tattoo machine quality makes a huge difference depending on how hard it is, how soft it is. It depends on what you want. Do you want saturated colors? You need a harder machine. If you want soft single needle lines, you need a lighter machine. And also quality, like Amazon machines, not good. Compared to legitimate machines like Cheyenne, really good. And even needles too, and even inks, right? Amazon kit inks, garbage. Dynamic black ink, great. Needles, ink flow, especially with single needle, ink flow is very much compromised if it's a poorly made single needle. So be very selective with the equipment that you're going to use, and you have to try them out, and you have to ask around, and you have to watch videos about it. There's a lot. Tattoos by Luca asks, best approach to microrealism, black and gray, cartridges / voltages, etc. It depends on what you want. So I guess microrealism, let's talk about that. Microrealism includes 7 mag. You can render realistic tattoos with a 7 mag, like Goldie Z does. And well, she uses 7 mag and a whole bunch of other needles. You can render it with 3 roundliner, like Powell and Indulski does. I asked him in a DM, I asked, do you use single or do you use 3? Because it looks so smooth, it looks like a single, but actually he uses 3s, which is pretty cool. Or, like me, do you use single needle? So there's different approaches, and you have to build your equipment around what you want, what you like to do, what you like to use. So, January Dreams asks, how do you get into fine line tattoos as opposed to American traditional, etc.? So how do you get into it? So I guess for apprenticeship, American traditional is more common to start at because there's more available than, let's say, single needle, because not a lot of people do single needle. How do you do it? I guess you gotta really, a lot of it, learn on yourself and take apprenticeships to learn all the other corners of tattooing that you normally can't on your own, just like, you know, like interacting with customers or properly setting up stations and machines, everything else. But a lot of it is learning on your own and watching videos like mine, and because single needle is so niche that there's not enough of us to make it easy for you to get into, right? So that's hard, but I guess a lot of it is self-taught, but be responsible, practice, draw, get a proper apprenticeship, watch videos. Pinker asks, I've been doing all my practice lately by watching your videos. Thank you for your dedication. Thank you. I appreciate it greatly that you took the time to say that. Pat Will Prosper, he asks, when are you most in your flow state while tattooing? When do you feel most in the zone? I feel most in the zone when I'm tattooing things that I genuinely love to tattoo, like a design that I like, you know, and I'm in my flow state not when I am putting the stencil on, not when I'm setting up, you know, stations and everything. I love the tattooing process and drawing process. So I'll only enter that state when I'm tattooing, you know? So, and it usually takes me some time to actually get into that, like, total focus. Like, I'm fucking crazy doing this shit. It takes some time. So I'm even getting in the flow state of doing these questions. You can tell I'm like just rambling. I'm not really thinking. I'm just blah, 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 blah. But at least it makes sense what I'm blabbing out. Yeah. Okay. Ricky asks, do you prefer clients to shave themselves before their appointment? I never know. Actually, I was gonna be polite and be like, no, you don't have to, but it always helps. It shaves off time. Like I said, I get my flow state when I tattoo, not when I do all the prepping beforehand. So anything that will save me time to get to the tattoo faster, then I'm all for it. It's great. It's okay. Yeah, don't worry about it. It helps, but don't worry about it. When asks, what's the best advice you have for new artists? Get acquainted with drawing. Know why you're getting into it. Passion will get you farther than money and fame or any other reason that you might want to get into it. Status. New artists. Get an apprenticeship because it will help you. Do everything right. Follow a moral compass. So if you're just gonna buzz out tattoos and you know that it's not your best work or you're just doing it to get money, that's not great. It'll come back to you. I believe in karma. You should believe in karma. It always comes back to you. Yeah, do that. Those 4 things for new artists. There's plenty more, but I gotta keep this simple. Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm getting there. We got a couple more, but definitely I would say 70% there. Your boy asks, what he been the most challenging work you've done? Oh, what has been the most challenging work you've done? Definitely longer sessions, because just like any, I guess, sport, the longer you get in, longer the game is, the more you have to keep it together. You know, your focus, your muscle, stability, everything, your tiredness, your thoughts, like, I'm gonna go home. Everything, it gets harder later. So that's the hardest always. So that's when I get my most challenging work. And those long sessions, if I do it well, it feels the greatest, because like, I achieved a hard feat. Just like, the 5 borough bike tour, and I fucking busted my ass and I still finished it, so I feel good. It just made it harder, you know. It was like, oh man, my rib hurts, there's pressure, my hip, you know, my arms and my knees, and it would have been easier if I just finished it without all that, because 40 miles, you know, if you have good stamina, it's not that bad. But because I fell and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it, it feels accomplished. Mr. J Fineline asks, shout out to Mr. J. He interacts with my Instagram a lot. How do you go about making single needle finger tattoos so they don't fade? I answered this previously, but basically the skin is tougher, so you have to go deeper, but that risks going too deep, so you notice that you blow out your finger tattoos more often. So I guess experience to know the exact depth. You have to go deeper though. So the thing is, you have to go deeper for fingers, because they fade so easily if you don't go deep enough. Emit again. Oh, Emit and Armenta has even more. Okay, yeah, this is definitely new. So I think they came back and asked more questions. Good. I can never get enough questions. It helps me and helps you guys too, guys and girls. Who are your favorite artists of your style? I don't have my personal style yet, but the style I'm doing now, it's micro-realistic fine lines. So Powell Andelsky is a fucking machine. His output is crazy. His quality is consistent. Technique is on point. His detail is so well done. He recently joined Bang Bang and his output suffered because, you know, the prices at Bang Bang. Of course, you know, if people look at the prices, they're like, oh, I don't want the tattoo as bad as I thought. So his output has been taking a hit. So, well, anyways, I mean, that was his decision to go there, right? But yeah, he's a fucking amazing artist. Another one of my style is Goldie Z. She is also a fucking beast. Like I said, the style is different because she uses a whole array of needles where I only use one and Powell only uses 3 that I know of. I think 3 maybe, I don't know. Yeah, her approach to fine line is also amazing, and she's able to do amazing level work for that, you know. Obviously, the person I work for, Ava, right? Her fucking fine line is amazing, and she works with color. Color is another layer of mastery that myself, Powell, and Goldie don't typically use color. So, and I'll be honest here too, her work has been taking a potential hit, so she could be more potentially skilled in her tattoo work, but she's maintaining shops and she's fucking busy running around doing 10 things at once, that it's just natural for her tattoo quality to take a hit, right? So I can't blame her for that, but I will give credit where it's due. Who else? What other micro-realistic fine line? There's just so many, but those are the ones that I can think of now. Okay, Armenta, what's the most challenging thing you've tattooed and why? It's hard to answer because there's a lot of them, so I won't answer that. But the longer sessions are always fucking challenging as hell. Part 5 of Armenta's question is: have you ever felt like I'm the shit? Like very proud? Yes, all the time. But I am a strong believer of humility, so I do it very carefully. I do it where it doesn't get in my head, because as soon as it gets into my head, I get comfortable or I get too full of myself, and it'll just bleed into your personality and you just become unpleasant, you know? We've all dealt with people who are full of themselves, entitled, you know, egotistical. They're never great people to be around. And it's okay, because everybody learns. I used to be much more arrogant than I am now. And thankfully, it was in my younger years. So, you know, if you're younger, obviously you're allowed to mess up. If you're older, You know, it's less forgiving, but it's never too late. If you're older and you're arrogant or ego or entitled or anything, you got to be aware. That's why self-awareness is key. So I do feel like I'm the shit quite often, but it's like my mind is like, shut the fuck up. It keeps me in check. I need to keep myself in check. Samso asks, which style would be the polar opposite to fine line, and how do you feel about it? Great question, because Japanese traditional, I feel like, is the polar opposite, or American traditional, but more so Japanese, because they have whole body pieces, right? Whereas American traditional could be piece by piece, and fine line is also piece by piece. But for Japanese traditional, you're working with an entire arm, an entire back, an entire leg, and it's huge. The line thickness is complete opposite of single needle. The scale, like we just said, is the complete opposite of single needle. The even colors is the opposite of at least black and gray single needle, fine line. Japanese traditional, and I'm so fascinated by it because this new style that I want to do is like a mix between the two. I'm very excited. So I need to put in more hours and more work to get that going. Okay, and Kill asks, do you help with touch-ups of tattoos you didn't initially create? I used to, when you gotta, like, you know, when we're all starting out as tattoo artists, you kind of just take on any project, because if you don't, there's nothing to do. So I used to do cover-ups, I would say quite well, and touch-ups. But now I get to be more picky of what I want to do, because I can, and I should, because if I don't enjoy it, I'm not going to give you my best work. So answer is I don't, because, you know, I don't have to, and I shouldn't. Part two to the person's question is, what amount of ink do you typically anticipate will stick and stay in a hand tattoo? Let's say a percentage. If done poorly, 10 to 20%. If done right, even then it's not 100%. It would be like 70 to 80%. The hand is just very difficult to tattoo, especially if your skin is rougher too, and the inner palm and finger, harder. Outer, easier. Side, a little easier too. Knuckles, not so easy. Yeah. Okay, all right. We are getting there. We're getting there. Olgun asks, can I work for you in your new studio? I gotta say no, because first of all, I want to be alone. Second of all, I'm going to be very picky with the kind of people I hire, because their energy will affect my energy, and it just has to be just right. So I got to be very careful with who I put around me, you know, because with, you know, the past shops and even some of the current shop, if I'm around certain types of people, it kills my mood. So I really need to make sure who I am around. Mr. Bass asks, how to take a good photo of a tattoo? Wow, that is a great question, and that is a video topic in itself. There's so much. Basically, lighting, quality of your camera, angle, even using Lightroom. You know, if you overdo Lightroom and Photoshop, then you kind of make it fake, you know? So you have to balance quality, upping your quality of the tattoo, but not going so far where it's like, it makes it look too good, where it's like, you know, fake, right? I think I do a good job, because I only balance out the redness. So, and also I take iPhone videos and iPhone, so you can compare, you know, how it looks with my camera versus iPhone. So, you know, it's not like I'm totally manipulating the tattoo to look completely different than what it actually is. You have videos, you have even my recordings of my tattoo sessions, so yeah. But yeah, it's a whole video in itself. It's not that bad. I'm milking it. Okay, all right. Straight back, posture. Anson asks, do you have any tips and advice on preparing a portfolio for a tattoo apprenticeship? So my tip would be to build as much as you can, draw a lot, and even fake skin will help you get eyes on you. So when I got hired / taken in as an apprentice in Dragonfly, I bought my drawing folder and he took one quick look at it and he's like, trace this. He printed out a fancy Phoenix image, right? He said, trace this. I put it on the stencil sheet and I used a ballpoint pen because in that shop and back then, everything was done by hand. And I suggest you do it too because it trains your hand and your, so I traced it and he was like, he was like, come in this day. And that's how it happened. So draw enough where you can produce some impressive drawings, and if they're not good enough yet, practice more. So when you go to a potential mentor or shop, they'll take one good look at it and they'll be like, when do you want to start? So it's all on you. N8 asks, do you prefer a client with more or less knowledge on tattoos, and what are the pros and cons? I really don't care if you know a lot about tattoos or if you barely know any. I guess for your benefit is if you know more about tattoos, you know how to select for what you want more, and you know how to research for the artist or style or the shop because you have more knowledge about it. So actually I would prefer you have more knowledge. But if you don't have knowledge, it might be worse off for you because you can just go to any shop and then you might get a tattoo you might regret. So more knowledge would be better for you. Better for me too, because then I can get straight to the point instead of, I really don't care. Lemmy asks, do you use any other needles? If not, then why? I don't, because I am stubborn by nature and I don't like to change midway. So I'll stick it through. And I've developed my style around that. Not that I have a choice, because I'm born with this personality. So I just do single needle and I only use black ink because I don't have to change it. I just go. I like to tattoo. I don't like anything else. I don't like changing. I don't like stenciling. I should though, because it'll open up opportunities for me, and it'll make my service better, because if I put more care into the stencils, then the stencils would be better. If I change needles, I can do more with, That's why though. That's why it's my personality. And you'll notice, for everybody watching, your personality dictate what you do, what you get into, how you do things, everything, So we are locked into this. We are locked in. BB Abel asks, what program do you use to make stencils? I mentioned it before. I use Photoshop to prep the stencil by using the sharpening tool, the dodger and burn tool, the cropping tool, which is the lasso tool or the magic wand tool, and the color changing tool to make it black and white. So that's what I use. And I print it out using the shop uses a Epson printer with the stencil ink as the ink cartridge. BB also asks, do you achieve the dot-like texture? To achieve the dot-like texture, do you also use a mag? Is that also done with all black ink? I usually don't, but this one tattoo I actually used a soft edge mag. So it's like, basically that compared to single needle, it's the same thing. Depth, everything is the same. And I used, all black ink for that too. But the only thing is the skin tension. Like I always mentioned, the skin tension is different with single needle compared to all the other groupings, because there's minimal skin tension with single needle, and with the mag that I used, you're dividing up the skin tension among multiple needles, so you have to press a little bit harder, right? But the depth and everything still affects it similarly. You just gotta account for the skin texture, so skin tension. So I usually don't use a Mac, but for that one time I did, and you can see the smoothness of it. Basically, I applied all the techniques I normally did, but basically I just accounted for the skin tension, and you can get the same results. Okay. We got a few more and then we're done. I hope this video has been really informative and useful to you so far. Oh no, man, I don't have the Instagram handle for this one because I think I cropped it out while screenshotting it. Anyway, this person asks, what criteria do you look for when deciding to take on a project? Most importantly is if I like to do it and if the tattoo looks good. So the reference image that I would use depends on that. I'll spend a lot of time, sometimes up to an hour, just going through Google Images to find the perfect reference image that will look great on skin and as a tattoo. There's a lot of criteria for that. That's a video in itself, but that's a short answer. Okay, this is what we ink asks. How to keep stencils clean and long lasting while smooth shading. So basically there's some tricks to keep the stencil staying as long as possible, which is using A&D to mix in with the ink that's on the skin to wipe off easier. Applying a thin layer of A&D so you know the ink doesn't bleed into the skin for you to wipe off so hard, and dab it as opposed to wiping it with a paper towel. Maybe there's more to it, but I'm gonna keep it fast. Get on with the questions, Jason. So tricks, part 2 of his question is tricks to make crisp lines. This is all hand control. Like I said with, stroking the line versus one passing it. Stroking, you need to stay within that path each stroke. Pulling the line means you are consistent with your hand speed, depth, and everything, and steadiness and everything to maintain that one pull. Less forgiving than brushing, but for the brushing, you gotta worry about maintaining that path. Hand control and experience, and I'll say it again. Draw. Train your hand. If you're not happy with your hand control quality, draw more. It's easy as that, but it's difficult because who wants to sit to draw that often, or it's like, yeah. Chaos asks, I've been tattooing for about 7 months, but I've been a professional artist for over 10 years. Any pointers? That's actually very helpful that you're a professional artist for 10 years. It's helpful, but also not helpful, because if you're into your art for 10 years, you have to kind of pull back things you've done for 10 years to learn a new discipline. So some things in another medium won't work for tattooing, but a lot of things do, like let's say drawing, right? But anyways, that's a small negative, but the big positive is that you're an artist for 10 years. Your hand control must be amazing. Your knowledge for art must be well developed too, so you know what you like to do. Like your style must be quite developed. So getting into tattooing, you know what style you like. You can even mix the two disciplines and make something completely new and creative. Any pointers? I guess so. The pointers that I would give you is transition carefully. You have to open your mind up more if you are more solidified because you've been doing it for 10 years. But also utilize what you are doing for 10 years. So if it works for tattooing, or what you can do new with tattooing, or make it your style or different, unique to you, then by all means do it, it'll make you stand out. Lexa Gray TTT asks, hi Jay, can you explain the correct procedure to get well saturated lines using small/single needles? I mean, I explained this with the stroking the lines versus one passing. Basically, stroking, you have to do it multiple times until it is saturated. That also has to do with to depth. Also has to do with you staying within the lines. Single needle is also depth and, you know, consistency and all the hand. It's easier to get well saturated lines with single pass versus stroking the lines, but you can get it with stroking the lines. You just got to do it enough times and within the same line. So yeah, that's the way. Oh, we have 3 more questions and then we're done. I can go eat after this. Ray asks, hi Jason, I would like to ask you about how you tattooing without any ink leak, thanks. This will be due to your cartridge, how far you extend the needle out. So the needle, if it's not extended far out of the tube, then ink will easily spill onto the skin because the drop makes contact with the skin and then the water just, you know, goes right onto it. But if it's farther, the needle's farther away from the tube, then it less likely. Yeah, I don't like ink leak either because when you tattoo with ink on the skin, first of all, you can't see it, but also the ink pixels become much darker, and if you've been doing light the entire time and you're not careful and you tattooed with ink on the skin, suddenly it's darker even though you've done everything the same depth, same speed, same everything. It just becomes darker because there's just more ink particles there for the needle to push in. So you gotta be careful with the ink dropping onto the skin, unless that's what you want, because you want to saturate the darks faster if it's a dark layer, right? That's why, you know, the traditional needles, usually the ink spills all over the skin, but that's a good thing because when you pull that traditional line, it's like, you know, it's well saturated. A Great asks, how do I really get started to tattoo? Is art background necessary? No, because I've actually seen artists that had no background in it and go straight into it, but that's uncommon because you have to be super talented, or yeah, you have to be super talented for that. But if you're like me, I've been drawing since I was a kid, and that you have no idea how much that helped me become the level of a tattoo artist that I am now. So I would say it is better. It's definitely better, but not necessary. But that's very few people can get away with that. Callie asks, hello, would you be willing to do a few small tattoos in one session? Yeah, I do that sometimes. Some people book a day with me and wants up to like 7 tattoos, or I've gotten even like 11, and we just spend the whole day together. I mean, prices will reflect the amount of energy and time and hours that I put into it. Of course, the more it is, the more I'll charge. But if you're getting it all together, I feel like you'll save a lot of money than getting it every now and then. But then you have to commit to like 11 tattoos, so you gotta be well prepared if that's the case. But yes, I do it, and it's definitely a unique day, and I'm not opposed to it. I like doing small tattoos, and I like changes of pace, right? I don't want to do everything the same every day for the rest of my life. That's it. That was all the questions. Now I gotta edit the video. This was a really amazing, fun experience for me to answer all of this on camera. So thank you so much for asking these questions. You can tell my mind is just buzzing and it's flowing out. You know, it's like, I love it. I love talking about things I like to talk about. Who doesn't? But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you make the necessary changes to make yourself better as a person, as a human, as a tattoo artist, anything. And if you stuck it all the way through to the end, thank you. Appreciate it. Remember to like, remember to comment, remember to subscribe if you want to. I'm not gonna hold a gun to your head. You can do whatever you want. You can even dislike it if you want, whatever. But I'm getting really into YouTubing, and I think I'm gonna do a lot more, and the quality's gonna get better, the content's gonna get better, the output's gonna get more. When I have my own studio, it's gonna be even better because I'm recording my studio in my own place, and it's like yeah. Bye-bye.